One of the books which I bought and read when I was a student, long time ago now, is this one here by a French mathematician. His name is Blaise Pascal. And although he's a mathematician, he may be famous for what you might remember as Pascal's triangle, which is a series of numbers which are laid out, which are like the coefficients of the binomial expansion and triangular numbers and those kind of things. It's not for the mathematics which this book is famous for. Pascal's Pensees, or thoughts. This is a Penguin Classic book. These are the thoughts which he had about himself, about his life, about the world around him, about God, about religion, about the meaning and purpose of life. And these are thoughts which he had throughout his life. And he used to write them down on little bits of paper. And some of them were so important to him that he kept them in his coat and actually sewed them into his coat wherever he went. So he had these bits of paper with these thoughts which he could remind himself about. So important were they from him. After he died in 1662, so it's quite an old time when he was around, people gathered these thoughts together and put them into this book of Pensees, or thoughts. And they are striking in the honesty of his search for what the world is about and what his life is about and what sense that he can make of it. He doesn't always have any answers, but he does ask questions. I'll give you one example of the kind of questions which he asks. And by the way, this is set out in terms of almost disconnected kind of thoughts and ideas which have been brought together into a kind of semblance of a rough plan, but they were never designed to be a book. They're just separate little thoughts. Sometimes they're a page or two long, sometimes they're just a few paragraphs or a few lines, and they're all dotted around throughout the book, and you can dip into this quite literally anywhere and read any of these thoughts and just see what kind of ideas he had. Let me give you an example of one of them. This is from Pensees. What number I got here? 427. I see the terrifying spaces of the universe hemming me in, and I find myself attached to 1/4 of this vast expanse, without knowing why I've been put into this place rather than that, or why the brief span of life allotted to me should be assigned to one moment rather than to another out of all eternity which went before me, and all of that which is to come after me. I see only infinity on every side, hemming me in like an atom or like the shadow of a fleeting instant, and all I know is that I must soon die, but what I know least about is this very death which I cannot evade. Gives you an idea of the kind of questions and issues which he quite willingly faced and which he thought. It also contains one of the famous things called Pascal's wager, where, well, I can leave you to look that up for yourself, but Pascal's wager is really about why it is better to think that there is a God rather than there isn't a God, because the wager is such that you can't really lose out if you think of God. People have criticised that, of course, in many different ways, but this is the original book that I first had. It's quite an old version. It cost me, when I first bought it, brand new from the shelves, 80p. And I reckon you could pick up a copy of that for about the same kind of price in any good charity shop somewhere or other. Pascal, Blaise Pascal, mathematician, but wrote Pensees, thoughts, for you and for the rest of us. Never been out of print, as far as I know, since 1662.